That's amazing watching you guys all come in. It's like completely intimidating. I think fell off our chairs to watch you all come in there. Well, welcome everybody. We're just going to give it a minute or two. There's still a few folks coming in. It's great to see you all there. I think, James, we're going to have our work cut out for us today because we've got some pros. We've got Vanessa, who's done a session with us before, so it's great to see her. So we're going to have to live up to that one.
Oh wow, got to be on form, man.
Yeah. And I see we got Joe there. He's a sales guru, so we're going to have to be on our game for sure. And Steve, I haven't seen you in a while. It is lovely to see you, the SEO champ. That's awesome. Good to see you.
Cheers, cheers, Luke. Good to see you too. Thank you.
Yeah. And Mr. Hubble, of course, who is the resident website expert. Always good to have Mr. Hubble in the room. So lots and lots of creative folks there. And Stu, also awesome to see you. Thanks so much for making it. You really missioned to get here, so thank you. We appreciate it.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. And yeah, geez, so many people. Bevan, great to see you. This is your first time joining us, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, indeed.
Incredible business that Bevan's got there. So definitely, Bevan, think about what's happening here today, because we're going to be picking your brains at some point to get you on one of these as well. So lovely to see you. Elaine, we've got Elaine from the Gloucester office. Great to see you representing Gloucester. Go Gloucester. And Regan. Regan, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you?
All right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks. Thanks for joining. It's good to see you.
Andrew, yeah.
Cool. I think that would probably cover us, guys. I think we can probably kick it off from there. We've got Kevin also joining us. Welcome, Kevin.
Hello.
The main man in the room. Still got a couple more folks coming in, so I'm just going to give it one more sec. What do you think, Caroline?
Yeah, still people coming in.
Okay. Well, whilst we're waiting, folks, can we do some quick housekeeping? Because we love it when you all do work with each other and get to know each other. So please do feel free just to rename yourself. Make sure that your company's name is nice and clear. That includes you, Daniel Crook. It is great to see you. I haven't seen you in ages. We've got another sales guru there that we'll have to live up to, James. He is the man on the dials. He does not give up. He never for an answer. He never.
Brilliant. So be looking to you for some tips then, by the sounds of things.
Yeah. No, it's great to have you here, Dan. And Andy from Birmingham, representing Birmingham. Super. Thanks a lot for coming along.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, Luke.
Yeah, awesome, Andy. Okay, I think if we've all renamed ourselves and we've got our things there, we should crack on. Now, we've all renamed. It is being recorded, so if everybody's comfortable with that, the session will be available for some other folks that really wanted to join us today but were unable to attend. Caroline's also going to take a picture for us later, so if we want to share that in social media and just tell us what you kind of doing out there, that'll be wonderful. But I'm really excited about the event today. We've got the incredible James on the session today, and he's going to be talking about lead generation. Why it's so important for us is, all of us as business owners, when we look at our pipeline and we think about, oh, it's looking a little bit light and we haven't got a lot of folks to talk to, it's an enormous amount of pressure that we've kind of feel as business owners. When we've got a nice, big, fat, healthy pipeline of lots and lots of folks to talk to, it just really does spur us on. It gives us a lot of confidence. And we think to ourselves, it's brilliant. If I get a no from this one, it doesn't matter. I'll push on to the next. It doesn't matter. I'll push on to the next. And it really does give you that confidence. So I'm excited, for James to kind of share his journey with us, help us all build those nice, big, healthy, fat pipelines that we can really rely on. Now, we all talk about it at BizSmart all of the time, and I just want to reinforce this. I hope you've all got pen and paper handy, because some of the gems that James is going to be sharing with us today are meaningless unless we take action. So please jot down your big things, your big ideas that you're going to take away, that you're going to implement in your business to make that difference, because that is what today is about. It's about taking ideas, implementing them into your business, tracking and managing those actions, and making sure that you actually get the most out of the session. So with that, James, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind, maybe just because I know you really well. I know where you come from. I know your background. I'm so excited to chat to you, but I'd love it if you maybe just share with the room, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. Thanks ever so much, Luke. And no, really good to see everyone. Yeah, probably the biggest event I've done over Zoom. In person, I've done others, but certainly over Zoom. So really exciting. So my background has always been in recruitment, sales from the age of about 15. Joined the business Exceptional Thinking as a telemarketer, actually, on the phones, and sort of worked my way up to have sort of a share of the company and help implement some strategies and other things that sort of, I think, helped improve the business and certainly helped us grow. So who are Exceptional Thinking? Now, historically, we've been a telemarketing, lead generation, content creation business, but over the last 3 or 4 years, we've really sort of drilled down into what we're best at, which is the telemarketing and the qualified lead generation. And I really emphasize the qualified lead generation because there are an enormous amount of businesses in our space that do lead gen, and that could mean one of many things. You know, a lot of businesses do, let's say, email outreach, which is, you know, getting people to sign up for you know, webinars or, you know, book drops, that sort of thing. Some do a bit of telemarketing, some use certain data lists to help gain, you know, a bit of an interest in, you know, what their clients are looking to achieve. So what I'm going to go through today is what we do as an organization, the process that we follow in order to gain revenue and clients for our business. And we use a blend of pretty much all the 3 things that I've just spoken about. We use LinkedIn as a source of data and to approach and warm up our prospects. We use telemarketing. We've got a skilled telemarketing team that then pick up the phone to those people. And we also use email outreach as well to reinvigorate those prospects that we're not immediately getting in touch with, or we're not getting an immediate bite from once every so often. So that's a bit about us.
James, if I was to jump in there and say, what are our audience expecting today? What are they going to come away with? So you've spoken about a couple of things there, which I think are incredible for all of us, because we're all looking to build that link within, you know, kind of our little process and how we drive it forward. So what would you like for the room to come away with today in terms of a plan or a structure to kind of take this lead gen forward?
So I think first and foremost, it's just that, Luke, that word plan. You know, it takes anywhere from sort of 24 to 30 man hours for us to plan a process for a client. So to come away with a clear plan on actually, you know, what do they need to do in terms of their LinkedIn to get it looking ship shape and proper? You know, who are their clients that they're currently working with, and you know, who are you guys going to be reaching out in future? You know, what have those clients' journeys been like, and where can you apply that into your messaging, your scripting, and when you're approaching the prospects that you're ultimately going to be engaging with? And of course, I think it's really important to go through, you know, what does qualification look like? What are you achieving from the calls you're subsequently going to make? And of course, that old saying that, you know, perfect is the enemy of good. So, you know, look, we're not looking for people to spend money when they meet up with you or when they speak to you on the phone. It's the meeting after that. So what do we need to do to get them to that stage and beyond?
Okay, well, I'm going to then hand it over to James just to maybe talk us through that kind of that step of planning as to how we would go about planning, because, you know, BizSmart, planning for us is key. It's a really essential part of what we do. We have our Smart 90 planning sessions. For those of you that will be on this call today that are part of the Smart 90, please feel free to update your you know, your software with the actions and things that we'll be talking about today. If you're not familiar with what a Smart 90 is, maybe Caroline, if you wouldn't mind just dropping that into the room, we'll share it to the folks if you want to have a look at it. But really powerful tool to keep you in track and take on board some of the stuff that James is talking about and apply it to your plan. But James, would you be okay? I'm going to ask some of the folks as we're going along today just to drop in a couple of questions into the chat box. I'm going to kind of curate it a little bit, so I'll keep one eye on the chat box while you're talking. And if there's some questions, I'll ask them as you go, if you're okay with that.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, and then if there are some questions that we don't get to at the end, Caroline, maybe if I could ask you just to save the chat, because what we'll do is we'll make sure that we reach back to everybody afterwards. If there was a question unanswered, we'll make sure that we do give you that feedback. So we don't want anyone leaving with an unanswered question. Okay, so James, the planning bit, I mean, that, as I say, very key to us at BizSmart. So tell us a little bit about planning. How would you then go about putting that together?
Luke, just before James starts, is there supposed to be some slides we're seeing? Because I'm not seeing any if we are.
No. James is just going to be chatting with us now, Richard. So okay. No slides as yet. There might be one or two that come in later, but not as yet.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. So when you begin looking and planning at a campaign, it's very easy, especially with lead generation, to think, right, let's just go after anything. Let's get revenue. You know, we want to get clients. We want meetings in the diary. What we encourage all of our clients to do, and what we do ourselves, is we look at actually, okay, our 3 to 5 best clients, the ones that have been with us the longest, the ones that are making money out of using our service. What has their customer journey been like? What has their experience been like? Really importantly, where do they fit? So what size business are they? What industries are they in? What level of decision maker are we looking at? And what sort of geography are they in as well? And it's really important to jot these down and look at some similarities between them. And I'll explain a little bit why later, because all of this now builds into a picture of who we're going to be targeting on LinkedIn. What messaging can we create that's going to resonate with the buying personas of the people that we're most successful with? And the more time spent doing this, the less time you need to be spending on the phone a little bit further down the line and actually just getting quality meetings in the diary. This should do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So it's really worth looking at those clients. Who are your top 5? What are they doing right? What challenges have you solved in their business? And what do they look like from a demographic perspective? So from that, you want to be asking these guys for referrals, testimonials, and that sort of thing. And if you've got that information, what you can then do is you can start looking at what messaging you need to create. So a really useful way of doing this is looking at your LinkedIn, okay, searching using the filters, getting Sales Navigator in place, and beginning to search based on what your most successful clients look like and the people that they are. So with that, you can use lots of sort of automation tools. There's a tool called Linked Helper that's really, really useful that we use. But before you go out and start connecting, it's really important to get your LinkedIn house in order too. So one of the things that we say to a lot of clients is, would you invite someone into your office for a meeting if you had cups everywhere, you know, you had the rubbish overflowing and that sort of thing? Have a look at your LinkedIn. Is it clear? Is it concise? These people, when they're looking to connect back with you, they're going to have a look at your profile. So it needs to deliver a message immediately that actually they've had a look at me. This is targeted. And actually, I think these guys can really, really help my business move forward. So it's crucially important that you're looking at your LinkedIn constantly, keeping up with market trends and what your buyers want to hear when you're approaching them. Most crucially,
Right. Just a quick question. Sorry to interrupt your flow, but you dropped something there which I thought was absolutely fantastic. That buying persona, you know, that ideal person. And it was so powerful the way that you were kind of talking about that buying persona, and then you mentioned a few layers of things that you would look at your ideal client and using one of your top 5 or all top 5 of your current clients as that example of where they sit. So what do they look like? Where do they hang out? You know, geography, all those kinds of things. So I just want to highlight to the folks in the room that if we are taking anything away from the session today, that buying persona, that's really, really powerful stuff. Just to think about it from a context of your business, what does your buying persona look like? Who are those people that are buying from you? And then, as James was saying, when you're now engaging with LinkedIn, we need to make sure that it looks the right for that persona, I imagine, James, because you're attracting that kind of person. So you want to be able to emulate that, the feeling that they're going to be able to connect to in LinkedIn. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. I think that when they look at that, they're going to want to see a few things, aren't they? Who you are as a business, what you do, the results that you achieve for your clients, and they're also going to want to see something that resonates with those. So the industry that's, you know, specific to them. If your clients are happy to do it, you know, who are you working with? Let's name drop on there, you know, as long as your clients are happy for you to do so, because as long as people feel secure in the sense that you know their industry, you know their business, and you're working with their peers and others, then they're going to be more committed to having a conversation with you anyway. And that's before you even, you know, begin sort of outreach on the telephone and other bits and pieces, of course.
Okay, well, no, that's brilliant. I see Joe's also said that he will drop in a little link for us that we can have a look around creating a buying persona. So please do go ahead and do that, Joe. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, so James, now that we've got kind of the LinkedIn looking the way that we want to, you know, carry on then. So how would we then sort of engage? Because it feels to me like what we're talking about is when people are talking about cold calling, as an example, it has, some folks can do it, some folks don't seem to be able to do it. What is your view on cold calling? Because without putting words in your mouth, but it feels like what you're saying is you kind of want to build a connection or relationship. You want to warm somebody up, and then it would move on in the process. Do you want to talk us through that?
Absolutely, yes. So when you're looking at this, you've got to look at the messaging you're going to start sending out to these people. So getting a connection out there, you know, mentioning that you're working with other people in their industry. Once people begin connecting back, it's really important then to start signposting to those results that I've just mentioned that may be present on your LinkedIn profile, but getting really specific with it. Okay, so for us, it's a case of, we've had, small business owners within the coaching sector increase their revenue by X%. You want to be specific with that and invite them to a conversation with you. Now, once that's happened and the connection's either been accepted or sometimes not accepted, because not everyone does, it is then moving on to those calls. And cold calling is it's an art, it really is. But actually, if you've invested the time in the first place in the messaging that you're sending out there, these cold calls aren't necessarily that cold. Now, people are intimidated by it, but there's nothing more intimidating than setting up your own business and trying to pay people every month and that sort of thing. So no way is it as scary as that.
Can I ask, maybe just as a show of hands around the room, who here does not like making cold calls? Yes, it's quite a few folks that don't. So it goes back to what you were talking about there, James, that people are apprehensive about making the calls. What do you say to that apprehension?
Well, as I mentioned, you're doing the scariest thing you could do at the moment by employing people and paying them, and being responsible for an entire business. So nothing's as scary as that. I think the first call is always the worst, and your next call is going to be better than your last, and that's it. It's all about getting on the phone. You're not face to face with these people; they're on the other end of the phone. And ultimately, if you're selling in the right way, you don't really leave yourself enough time to make a fool of yourself, because you're asking questions and listening rather than speaking too much. And that's a misconception around sales, isn't it? That we must be talking in order to be selling, and actually no, 60-70% of selling is very much listening and asking the appropriate questions.
So that's very interesting, because one of the things that we get nervous about making a call is because we have to be interesting and we've got to sell this thing. And what you're saying is essentially, be relaxed. You're picking up the phone. You're going to be asking some questions. You don't have to be interesting. You have to be interested in their story, in what they're about. And that's going to create that connection. And then really what do you have to be sort of nervous about if that is your approach, that you're not wanting to push out all this information, but it's just asking some questions, getting to know somebody is, I suppose, less daunting, wanting to sell you something now.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you're actually warming up the call immediately, saying, look, I've reached out to you on LinkedIn, or we've connected on LinkedIn. I don't know, does the name ring a bell at all? Do you recall the connection? And people do and people don't. The people that do, instantly, that builds some sort of rapport almost instantaneously. The people that don't, is really interesting, actually, and those conversations can flow a bit easier, because there's almost that element of subconscious debt of, oh, I'm really, really sorry. No, I don't recall the connection. Okay, how rude, almost. But it almost puts them on the back foot a little bit, and it's all about sort of what happens next then. And for me, what's really important is you then deliver a high impact statement to these people. Okay, so for us, for example, we would go along the lines of something like, oh, okay, look, we've actually connected on LinkedIn. What we're actually doing at the moment is we're working with business owners in your sector. We're helping them increase their revenue by booking them qualified appointments that they're turning into business. And then after that, it's really important that you ask them a question almost immediately. So, what effective lead generation strategy do you have for your company? And then listening to them, what are they saying? Okay, so they have got a lead generation strategy. Okay, so what does that look like for you? It's using that what, how, when, why, all of those open questions that I'm sure that we're all familiar with, to get them talking and to get them really expressing to you what their business looks like, really, what challenges they're finding, and what they're doing. And of course, if you've got a really strong service proposition, you can look at that and you can then go, oh, okay, well, have you tried it this way? Have you done it this way? And it's all about then taking them through that sort of funnel of questions to really elicit the information you want to get, to then start selling back to, if that makes sense.
Okay, so that another big name that you've thrown out there for us is that high impact statement. So if I was just to rewind it back a little bit, what we were talking about first up, you said planning. Okay, make sure that you've got a plan, understand what that plan looks like. And then you were talking about that buying persona, because you want to apply that plan to your audience, to the people that you basically really want to connect with. And then you've kind of spoken us through, well, if you find those people, you understand what your process is, connect in with LinkedIn. So use LinkedIn, make sure that it's got the right look and feel for the market that you're trying to attract. And then you've dropped this other big thing on us, this high impact statement. So now you're saying, so you've got them a little bit warm, okay? And now you've got this high impact statement where you really want to, if I understand you correctly, what you're doing is you basically, this is the part where you're building that credibility and you're saying, okay, so this is who we are, you know, by sharing some of the successes that you've had, and then what would that success maybe look like within your organization? Would that be about right?
Yeah, that's a really good summary. That's what we're looking at. It's about, you know, expressing that credibility. You know, even if you need to mention a couple of name drops in there or other businesses in the industry that the prospects in that you're working with and the sort of results you achieve from them. Less is more there. You know, it can be a little bit wordy, but it's always really important to finish that with a question of, you know, what are you doing in this space? How have you coped with these challenges our other clients have faced? That sort of thing to really get them then talking. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got some from John here. He's mentioned that getting the client telephone number isn't easy. I absolutely agree. What are your thoughts there? How would you go about getting to connect with somebody like where John is battling to get a number?
Okay, so we've got a couple of different things that we use. Now, we run all of our LinkedIn connections through something called Linked Helper. And from Linked Helper, what we can do is we can extract the URL of all the LinkedIn connections that we've made. Using that, we can then upload them to a couple of other bots that we use. So Signal Hire being one, Pre-Contact Tool being another. So there are things out there that then search social media and other places where people's numbers are in the public domain. Now, I'd love to say there's 100% accuracy. There's not. It's around 30–40% accurate, but it does give you a facility to then get these numbers, these details. You can also search the web. You can search and look at going past gatekeepers and that sort of thing too, which is a completely different skill set. But gatekeepers are great fun.
No, so here's one that's also just been shared, which we spoke about it actually the other day. We were having a conversation around this, and you know, the comment is that I don't actually like it when someone calls me. You know, that idea of receiving cold calls. What are your thoughts around that?
Not everyone does, because the reality of this is that when you ring and you speak to someone out of the blue, they're doing something else, and whatever else they're doing is clearly more important than someone ringing out of the blue. So for that, you know, people will come back with you know, why are you calling me on my mobile number, and say, look, really sorry to have caught you out of the blue. Just so you know, we are a lead generation company. We help businesses increase their revenue, their profits through getting qualified appointments. I really appreciate that now isn't the best time to speak to you. What I am going to do, seeing as how we're connected on LinkedIn, is just drop you a brief note so I'm there in your inbox, and suggest some dates and times that we can perhaps talk if this is of interest. The reality there is you can't win them all. But having that, okay, back off, understand, let's revisit this another time, and giving that option is a far better way of dealing with that than just trying to rattle through the sales pitch and ultimately annoying these people. So
yeah, so the idea there is, I mean, really simplistically, if we're not going to pick up our phone or connect with clients, we're not going to be able to build our businesses. I mean,
sorry, you broke up then, Luke. Sorry.
So what I was saying was, if we don't pick up the phone or connect to new business, we're not going to be able to grow our businesses, because it's not going to happen with us being passive. You know, it's going to require an action. But I think what you're talking about there is take the action, but build it within your culture, build it within what's comfortable with you. That if you, for example, are not pushy or aggressive or things like that, then having contact with lots of different folks, and treating them the way that you would like to be treated or they'd like to be treated is in fact also going to help build that credibility. So when they are looking for those services, that you'd be top of mind. Is that the idea, is that you don't necessarily look to sell, but you're looking to create a group of people that know about you and create that awareness that would be able to work with you at some point?
Well, absolutely, because you're not going to get a sale, you're not going to get a meeting in the diary on the first call every call either. So actually going back and actually, you know, standing off and saying, look, I'm going to drop you another message on LinkedIn. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to gain credibility through someone that actually, you know, this guy's pretty reasonable. You know, he's not forcing this on me, but it's actually going to take their attention back to LinkedIn, where those messages are, where those credibility has been gained, and where you're signposting, you know, other clients similar to them that you're working with. So there's a couple of elements there, you know. It takes us anywhere between, I think there's an average of between sort of 4 and 7, depending on campaign, points of contact before we get a meeting in a diary with a prospect. Okay, now we're working on lots of different campaigns. If you're doing it as a business owner on your own business, we'd expect that to probably come down by a couple of points of contact anyway. So
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it is definitely a case of doing what's right by you, and doing it in the way that you feel the most comfortable, and bearing in mind that the company will tell you exactly what it needs. Your business always tells you what it needs. If it needs to grow, if it needs some leads, if it needs some people in, we're certainly going to have to take some actions. And I don't suppose we can ignore those. But okay, so in terms of that now, James, this a high impact statement that you were talking about, give us some ideas of what we would have within that high impact statement that is going to kind of make us stand out in a conversation with somebody.
Everybody wants to see how what you're offering can help their business, and they also want to feel secure that you've got experience doing that as well. So you want to include things like industry peers that you're working with, and you want to include tangible results that they can see, i.e. we've helped a business, secure an additional 50% appointments this month that they've then turned into revenue. Thinking about other industries, whether it's I don't know, recruitment, for example. Actually, we've taken the time down from actually getting a senior level hire from 6 months down to 3.5 months. Actually, how much time would that save you if we could apply that in your business to any hires that you're looking to make? So it's about evidencing the success you've had with people that are similar to them.
Okay. And where would you do that? Would you do that in a phone call, or would you do that within LinkedIn and social media and other areas of your business, on your website? Where would you typically have it?
Everywhere. I'd evidence it everywhere. Evidence success that you're getting everywhere with clients that are similar to the ones that you're now targeting. So whether that is on that LinkedIn message and really getting across you're an expert in the sector and you can help, whether that's picking up the phone and making that high impact statement of actually, okay, I've sent you this on LinkedIn, I'm going to reconfirm that now on the phone to you. How are you coping with this area? And then immediately asking that question. Get that out there as much as possible. Be that thought leader, be that perceived expert within your space.
Okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, so if we were thinking now in terms of the types of questions, because now that you've maybe got somebody has taken your call, and we completely agree that you're not going to get to everybody, which is why you probably have to make a few different calls or make a few different connections or find a way to connect to that individual. How would you then start narrowing down that funnel? How would you kind of start thinking about, well, if I've got all these folks that I've had some sort of engagement with, how would I start bringing them into something? Because at the end of the day, we've got maybe 3 main areas that we would want to look at when we're growing our business. And that would be our number of customers, the sort of types of number of transactions, and the margins. That's kind of where our growth is going to come from, from the most part. And certainly the number of customers is 2 areas of our business. One is where we're starting at today, which is lead generation, get leads. Then obviously we've got to convert them. So that'll be another series that we'll talk about. But if I'm starting to get my leads and I want to start thinking about who do I want to have a conversation or invest more time with them in order to get them to a client position, what are the kind of questions that you'd be asking?
Okay, so you need to be asking lots of open questions there. Okay, so you've delivered the high impact statement. Okay, you've asked them, okay, what are you doing in your business to help mitigate against that? What would that look like in your business? Okay, so then it's about asking them questions around, okay, so what do you have in place for X, Y, and Z service? Okay, so how do you usually qualify your leads to make sure that they're a worthwhile use of your time when you're sat with people? When do you set time aside to increase your business revenue? And all of this time, you're helping build a picture of actually the situation they find themselves in. Now, if I rewind all the way back to the planning stage, what's really worth making a note of is what do you want to achieve actually from a qualified appointment? What does that look like for you? Okay, so what sort of spend do these people need to have? What should be the pressing need or the pain, or how do they want to drive their business forward that you can help with, and when do they want to do it? So you've really got to formulate your questions around them, because you want to make sure that they're qualified and you're not wasting their time or your time. So it's all about asking those open questions that are always going to point back to, okay, so this guy's going to have the budget in place for this particular to get a decent pipeline of leads. So okay, this is, we can help in that respect. And it's all about eliciting that information through that open questioning. And once you've made that assessment of actually, look, we can help this person here, okay, they've got that budget to spend, they've got that real burning need, it's then about taking them down a bit of a closing funnel, if I suppose, and asking them then slightly more direct questions. So for us, for example, it'd be a case of, okay, well, what would it mean for you if you had an extra 4 appointments per month in your diary? And our average is, our clients close at least 1 in 2 of those. Would your business cope with that demand? Which is a bit of an abrupt question, really, but it almost gets the business owners back up to go, well, yeah, of course my business could cope with that. You know, I'm a great closer. I'll close 3 out of the 4. You know, so it starts taking them down that sales funnel. Then, okay, so you know, what would that mean to your bottom line? You know, what would that mean in terms of you achieving your financial goals and your vision for the year? Okay, great. What we're doing here now is we're helping them build a picture of what this big shiny thing is over here that you can help them get to. And a couple of things there is, one, they're going to sit the meeting, and 2, you know, they're going to be really, really keen and interested to talk to you as well, because you've explained to them exactly how you're going to get them to the place that they want to be.
Yeah, brilliant. So James, maybe if you wouldn't mind, maybe you can kind of share a typical process, because I think you've covered off on kind of all your main areas of getting from planning all the way through to, you know, starting to narrow down the funnel where you're starting to maybe go into conversion or converting clients. What would you, if you were to give us a typical example of how you might run through a process for a particular client, that we could maybe just pick some ideas and pull out? We have had so many questions that I've been battling to keep up because you can't see them. They keep vanishing off the top of the screen. So we'll certainly try and visit back to those now. But I think it'd be quite nice just to have a kind of a practical, tangible example of what best practice looks like, and how you would suggest that folks might run them through this particular process, that they can, you know, then either decide if they want to use that or not, or maybe just enhance their own system.
Perfect. Okay, so from end to end then, okay, so we're sat down, we're looking at the clients that we're working with, our most profitable clients, and the client journey, you know, what they've said, the good things that they said about you, the case studies and all that sort of thing, and that's how we're going to define and shape the messaging. We use their buyer persona, and we also use, you know, their industries, their job titles, their levels, and that sort of thing. So then, let's say, get a really, really concise list of 200 prospects that are ideal clients for your organization. We look at those, and we look at the examples of clients we're working with to formulate a connection message to send out to them on LinkedIn. That connection message should be brief, and it should be designed to get them to connect back. Something along the lines of, we work with X, Y, and Z in your industry, and we're helping them achieve the results that, you know, our industry standard is, or, you know, above our industry standard is. Let's connect. Once connected back, we'll then send them a follow-up message. That follow-up message will be much more in depth, not too long though, and it shouldn't go out immediately after they've connected back. That just looks like a bot's had a go at it. It should be a bit of time lag between there, explaining a bit more about your product, your service, the clients that you're working with, and the results that you're achieving. Again, high impact statement in there. So once that's happened, I would always leave it a few days. Okay, I wouldn't pick up the phone immediately. Leave it a couple of days. Start picking the phone up to these people. Hi, look, I'm calling from Exceptional Thinking. We've connected on LinkedIn. You know, does the name ring a bell at all? Do you recall the connection? Yes, no, maybe, whatever. Okay, great. Look, what we specialize in doing is we specialize in helping businesses gain more qualified appointments that they're turning into revenue, thus increasing their profit. Could you tell me, do you have a lead generation strategy in place at the moment? Okay, yes, no, okay, great. We speak with lots of, and again, it's that familiarity. Oh, great. We speak to lots of businesses actually that have said exactly the same within your sector. And what we found is, whilst they've got lead gen in place, it's not as effective as they'd like. So how do you think it's working for you? And then begin that open question sequence that I mentioned. Once you've got them to the point of you assess that actually, okay, these guys, they need help, and I think that we can help. Then start taking them down that sort of closing funnel of, okay, so what would these meetings in the diary mean for you every month? What would happen if you converted a couple of them every month? What would that look like for your business, your vision, your goals? Okay, and build that picture. Once you've done that and you've gained commitment, and you've established all of, you know, they've got the budget, the authority need, and time scale, and there's something there. Okay, great, Mr. Prospect. I tell you what, let's book some time in the diary, because what I'd really, really like to do is I'd like to get under the skin of the business and where you find yourself. We've done enough on this phone call, but I think it'd be really worthwhile, you know, use of both of our time if we had an hour in the diary to discuss this further. Let's close them into that meeting. Again, you know, take the pressure off yourself. You're not selling there. You're not expecting to get a few quid from them. You're just setting up a meeting.
So that's interesting in itself, James, because the way you've kind of described the process is you've never really tried to sell anything in the process. All you've done is you've looked to gather information and move to the next step. Would that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't want to be sold to, great English, sold to by nature. The back comes up, but people don't mind talking about themselves. And actually, when they start talking about themselves and their business, they start being more susceptible to the open questions and giving answers around potential downfalls in their business and telling you where they do need help. And that's whatever sector that you're in. We see it across all the sectors we work in.
Okay, now, so that's brilliant. So now you've got, they said, okay, great, we're going to meet with you. We're looking forward to meeting with you. Would you leave it there, or what would you do at that point?
No, so from there, immediately we get a diary invite over to them. Ideally, whilst they're still on the telephone as well, and if we can get them to accept at that point, that'd be great. Let's get it in the diary. Let's get it confirmed. We need to make sure that we've got that time in. From there, I would then send an email to them as well. In that email, of course, you're going to thank them for their time. Some of our clients like to send out a bit of a book about what they do. But what I like to do is I like to put a summary of our conversation in that email as well. Okay, and say, look, I'm really looking forward to our conversation we're going to have on time and date. Just to recap, this is what we spoke about in our call and what we'll be visiting in our session together. Please do let me know if there's anything that I've missed, or there's anything else that you'd like to add to make sure it's a great use of yours and my time, essentially. So get that email out pretty sharpish. Then, it depends on that meeting's booked for. If that meeting's booked for tomorrow, it's pretty pointless, giving them a call later that afternoon and see if they're still okay for it. But if that meeting's a week or two out, always worthwhile, giving them a call a day or two before and just saying, look, really looking forward to it. Has anything changed? Yeah, let me know that you're still okay for that particular time and date. Some of our clients like videos. Okay, so some people will create a bespoke video that they will then send out to the prospect on LinkedIn a couple of days before, just saying, look, I'm aware you've spoken to X, Y, and Z person. This is what I've been told. Really look forward to this meeting. Can't wait. Let me know if anything's changed or you'd like to discuss anything else. So there's a couple of things you can do to maintain that warmth of that prospect between the call and the meeting date.
Okay, so essentially, you've done a few things to make sure that you're going to get them to participate or pitch up at that particular meeting, and potentially also just showing them that you've got that interest, that you're invested, that you've actually taken time and noted what their requirements and things are, so you're looking forward to meeting them. So I imagine when you do a pitch up at that meeting, you've got somebody that is actually looking forward to engaging with you because you've invested some time and effort into that, and that's the strategy. Am I correct?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of other things. There's a really, really useful tool out there, and some people may know this, called Score App. Now that's really interesting. That's a very sort of brief, almost a survey tool. But what that does is that again takes them down an almost a sales funnel, and comes with an outcome as to perhaps what's best to speak about in the meeting. But again, they've invested time as well before the meeting, which makes it more likely they're going to turn up and they're going to continue down that process. So it's all those little things, making them invest time and touch points and that sort of thing, just really making sure that meeting sticks and they're excited by, you're going to help them overcome a challenge in their business and drive it forward. So get them excited. That's what you need to be doing.
Okay, brilliant. So I mean, essentially, just to sum up that bit is, you've asked the open questions and you've asked more direct questions. The open questions is for your fact finding. Your more direct questions is you're getting kind of specific and trying to get granular to identify maybe what those aspiration points are, or possibly even what the pain points are, that you then say, well, I've got a solution for you and I'm excited to meet with you to present you that solution. Absolutely. And then you've also kind of built in this layer of thinking about what success would look like for them. So if they were to solve that challenge or overcome that challenge and they get excited about the prospect, or if that went away, what would it mean? Maybe more money, maybe more time, maybe more whatever it might be.
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
It's identifying what's important to them and actually how you can get them to that point of that utopia of what they're looking for.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to ask you for just very quickly 1 or 2 tricks that you might just think of if you were talking to someone that you've just found, and it might also be a question that you've used in the past that just really gets quite a high value level of engagement. Is there anything that you've got that you can throw out for the folks? And I know I've caught you. I didn't ask you this question beforehand, so
you've got me on the hot now. So a couple of ones that spring to mind. So one of them being, and this is more, if you're focusing on business owners that you're targeting and prospecting to, that something along the lines of, okay, when you created your business, when you become a director of this business, are you achieving what you set out to achieve? Okay, great. What more do you need to do in order to get you there? You know, what else can you be doing? That sort of thing. That opens up a treasure trove of information, especially when you're speaking to micro and small business owners. Another one is, okay, if you could change one thing in your business at the moment, what would that be? Okay, you need to have taken them down this route that actually, you know, you want them to answer something specific to your industry or the service you provide. So it's a risky one if it's if the answer isn't that, but that's another great one. You know, wave a magic wand. What would you change? You know, what would look better? So those are a couple of questions that really start opening people up and get them talking.
Brilliant. Now, I love the idea of questions, and we're going to have a follow-up session on this, which is going to be, you know, on the conversion side of things. If you folks are keen, we'll make sure that everyone gets an invite. But the idea is now that once you've got somebody excited about it, how do you convert them? And the idea of asking lots and lots of questions is something that we'll cover in that session, and why the importance of asking questions and what it means to the conversion process. So hopefully we'll have you folks on for that, but definitely questions right up front, starting with that in mind, not being overly worried about being interesting, but really being interested in their journey, making your prospect the hero of that journey, I think is really key. And that's kind of what I've picked up through your whole, you know, presentation today, is making that prospect the hero of this session, listening to them, taking what they've got on board, engaging with the information that's coming back to you. And if you think about it, all the stuff that you've spoken about there, James, you know, builds the commonality, because the commonality in this instance is solving their problem.
Yes.
It builds the trust because, you know, you're engaged and you're thinking about what their needs are and what, you know, what they want. And from a credibility perspective, when you spoke about your high impact statement, you've now built that credibility on top of it, because you're saying, I've done this before. You know, I've done it for folks that look quite similar to you. And it just feels to me like a lot of barriers that you might be dropping away there. So I've found that whole session to be really fascinating, and I hope the folks have really enjoyed it. But if we have got a few minutes left over, I want to just see if I can get some of the questions sorted out. Now, there's one or two, James, I'm not sure how you would deal with this, but coming from specific industries where cold calling is not allowed, might be GDPR or something like that. How would you go about building an engaged lead base for folks that maybe aren't necessarily allowed to pick up the phone?
I would look at something like, so still maintain that you're making that that initial contact from LinkedIn really, really powerful, because it is essentially a giant database of people that are in your target market. What you can do is you can still get business email addresses for these people, and there's some amazing tools out there. You know, Aweber is one that we've used, MailChimp's another one, and really, you know, set up a really solid email sequence there that's engaging with them, evidencing success, you know, with others in their industry, putting some thought leadership in there as well. Okay, what's going on in the market, what's going to really resonate with them and engage with them, and don't ask for their business, you know, not straight away, especially with these email campaigns. You know, wait till sort of 4 or 5, you know, emails in, maybe more, before you say, actually, look, let's set up a conversation, and do things that way. Because there are industries where, you know, you pick up the phone, you will get shot down immediately and perhaps even reported. So, you know, you do need to be really tactful with that. But email sequences are really, really strong, and something we're doing an enormous amount of work on at the moment, actually. So using Aweber, using MailChimp, those sort of tools. But I would always start with LinkedIn as a base in the B2B sector.
Okay, no, brilliant. And Chris also posted a note here to say referrals. You know, very successful way of generating leads is through referrals. Do you have any sort of tips or ideas that how you would put somebody through a referral process?
Absolutely, something that's really well, and I learned this. Actually, I think it was a business seminar that perhaps you and Kevin might have been at, or we're going to attend. What we've started doing is, when we're dealing with a client, they're happy with the service. Typically, if you go, okay, great, can I have a referral? They'll go, yeah, and, you know, probably not come back to you. What we've started doing now is, when we pass a lead over and we get positive feedback, we'll send it and we'll say, look, thank you ever so much for the feedback. Wendy, for example, one of our telemarketers, really enjoys that sort of feedback from you. Would you mind, it mean the world to Wendy, it mean the world to the business, if you just dropped a few lines back about that lead and how you have got that service from us? And 9 times out of 10, they will come back with some sort of referral there. They will come back with something. And, you know, if you've got people in your business delivering a service for you, get them asking for referrals or ask on their behalf, because people are so much more inclined to give them when they're going to be complementing a person as to opposed a business, which is right, wrong, whatever, but it works is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, brilliant. James, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us. I hope everyone's taken some notes and is thinking about what they're going to do and take away some of those ideas to implement in their business to make sure that they drive things forward. But I would love to give everyone the opportunity just to meet each other and have a conversation about some of the stuff that we've spoken about. So Caroline, if you're okay to set up a couple of breakout rooms for us quickly. We're going to push you guys out into breakout rooms. Feel free to discuss the things that we've been talking about, share some ideas, or there may be some other things that you might be doing that's working quite well in your current organization that you can share with some other folks, and really just an opportunity to meet each other, because at BizSmart, we always love it when you get to connect with each other and talk to each other. And essentially what you're doing here is a whole bunch of lead generation. So that'll be kind of cool on a lead generation webinar. So Caroline, if you're good, can you pop everyone out? Hi, everybody. Okay, brilliant. Hopefully you all got to meet and have a bit of a conversation and pulled out something. If there was anything that was really fascinating that came out of your rooms, please do drop it into the chat so that we can have a look at that with some ideas and techniques. I had a great conversation with Paul, and it was interesting because, Paul was saying not a big fan of cold calling per se. And I think, once we had kind of discussed it through a bit, thinking about that process that James had introduced us to, of thinking about who we want to talk to, that it is targeted, it is quite specific. We're building a plan and a persona of who we want to talk to, and then we're building these engagement thing around it. It's not a general sort of scattergun approach. There's some science to it, and I like the way James took us through kind of trying to find ways to warm those leads up, then have a conversation, calling them. And Paul and I were talking about, why do you call someone? Essentially because you care. That's why you phone somebody. You're not phoning them, just you're phoning them because you genuinely believe that you can be of assistance and help them solve something within their business. So that care factor I thought was quite good. But there's a process. And if we apply that process, James, I'm going to leave you with some parting words. How has your business grown on using this process?
Massively so. So, blimey. Back end of 2021, we changed things slightly, really focused on our core markets, which was 4 or 5 core markets. We've gone from, I think it was 6 staff then, and we're at sort of 18 staff now. And that's really focusing on what we're good at, the industries that we're good in, and where we're most efficient, and how we're targeting these people. And that has really led to our business growth over the last 12, 18 months. So get targeted, get planning, and pick up the phone. And as I said in my breakout room, look, if you're doing this planning part of the process, it takes 70% of the lead gen time, so 30% is only spent on the phone. And if you're listening more than you're speaking, you're only talking for 30% of that 30%. So it's not that scary for those who put their hands up. It's not that much time on the phone.
Okay. James, it's been brilliant to have you here. Guys, just a reminder that we just need to make sure that we action everything. If you don't have your Smart 90 plan, please do reach out to Caroline. Make sure that you do have one, because it will help you track all of these things as we go along. Very helpful tool to keep you on point with all your rocks, as Kevin would say, the main things that are going to drive your business forward. Really appreciated you guys all attending today. We will reach out to you, if that's okay, both James and myself. We'd love to hear a couple of things. One, what you enjoyed about the session today, what you didn't like about the session today, other sessions that you would like us to cover that may be of interest to you. So we'll definitely reach out and have a conversation with all of you folks around that. But thank you so much for participating. Caroline, as always, for being so efficient in driving the room. Thank you very much. We really much appreciate it. As I say, if there are any unanswered questions in the chat, Caroline is going to save the chat for us, and we will come back to you and make sure that you get some feedback there. So thank you very much. That was our power hour. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you on our next session.